It has been confirmed in recent days that Cristian Romero, club captain, will leave for Atletico Madrid for £34.1 million, and Djed Spence will leave to join Inter Milan for £25 million this summer. But it's time to find their replacements, as they're both leaving Hotspur way and Tottenham Hotspur with immediate effect, both joining their new and representing their new clubs. We have to find replacements for them and see who is going to lead into the new era under Roberto de Zerbi, which we know is not going to be these two. So who is going to replace them and lead this side? So if you're going to enjoy this video, as guys been asking to record, always remember to smash that subscribe button to the channel, and let's get into this one. So let's start with Djed Spence, of course. This was the most recent one. Of course, him going to Inter Milan for £25 million, which is quite surprising, a low transfer fee. But I definitely think if Liverpool, who were interested in the fullback, would have come in for him, I think he would have sold for about £45 million. Due to it not being a Premier League rival, we've let it go, and he wants to go for the club for a couple of reasons. It came out by the press. So he's left the club. Of course, again, he had a great World Cup campaign. If you've not seen what I said about these two departures, go to Jake X Millie Talks Everything on TikTok, and you will see everything on my TikTok page, which is basically a mini Spurs roundup for TikTok. But let's get back to the video. Djed Spence, of course, was decent at Tottenham. Of course, he had a struggle to life when he first joined back in 2022 after getting promoted with Nottingham Forest through the Championship playoffs. He joined Tottenham Hotspur for £25 million, being that new fullback that's going to be into the future, you know, being 20 years old when he joined, I think, or something along them lines, I want to say, 21, 22. But you know, he only made an appearance, an 88th minute substitution against Nottingham Forest in August. And after that, he didn't play for the whole season, getting loaned out for the second half of the season. Again, 23-24, it wasn't great once again. First half of the season was loaned out to Leeds United, where he done decent. The loan was terminated in January, though, and was loaned out to Genoa, of course, Italian side, and struggled there. Of course, 2024, that summer transfer window, it looked like he was going to leave the club. We were looking to try and offload him, but he didn't. And due to an injury crisis at the end of 2024, Djed Spence got his chance, playing at left-back for Tottenham and shining, locking up Mo Salah in our first leg, in the Carabao Cup semi-final back in early 2025. And then he became a proven starter, starting over Destiny Dog at the time, who had many injury problems. Djed Spence looked decent. Cracks started to show at the start of the last season, of course, where he was letting it go. His passing rate and, you know, passing out from the back rate was quite bad. He had his pace, though, to recover. And he was starting to get a bit cocky, posting on Instagram about how he's locking up defenders. And I think this is right for both parties that he leaves. I think that he wants new challenges, of course, after a disastrous 17th place season where we nearly got relegated to the Championship. He wants to be playing in European football after an excellent World Cup campaign. He wants to be playing Champions League football, starting, winning titles, and, you know, in the short-term future, that will not be happening at Tottenham Hotspur, and we can't guarantee that anytime soon. So probably it's best he's not in Roberto de Zerbi's plans. He would not start under Roberto de Zerbi. It looks like his two fullbacks are going to be Pedro Porro on the right, who he considers the best right back in the world, and experienced Andy Robertson at left back, who possibly could be one of our vice captains, who has only just joined in the summer on a free transfer from Liverpool. But let's talk about who's going to really replace him. So again, Djed Spence will join Inter Milan for £25 million, the Italian champions, of course, strengthening their side. But like I just said, we need to find their replacement. Who's the replacement going to be? We need a fullback that is able to join at left back just in case, of course. A left back, sorry. We've got depth. We've got Andy Robertson, Destiny Doggy, and Salzer, of course, who joined in January. So, 3 left backs, but Pedro Porro is the only lone right back right now. So we need a player who is mainly a right back, but possibly can switch to the other side, who's versatile, who's good going forward in a Roberto de Zerbi system, of course, where you need to push and the fullbacks are pivotal. You know, dropping in as inverted fullbacks, really, that can drop in and make that pass and play that pass, you know, keep good possession of the ball. Is really possession game, you know, high press, and that's what he wants. We want a player that can do that, who has the pace, who has the physical, who has the defending, and who has the passing out from the back rate, which Djed Spence always struggled with. He had the great pace, and he was a decent slide tackler. He didn't have enough physical, and he wasn't great passing out from the back. I think we can all agree on that for a start. So, who's that replacement going to be? I've already lined up that replacement, and some of you fans might not agree, and we've been linked to him before, and I think this is the perfect choice. I've gone with Nottingham Forest's Neco Williams. Of course, the former Liverpool man. I think this would be a decent move. I understand that he's not top quality, but again, this is more of a backup option. He starts Nottingham Forest, of course, played in their UEFA Europa League 2025-26 campaign, which was a big achievement for the club in recent history. But he's decent for Forest. He does the job. But to come to Tottenham, of course, he'd play that backup role. But he's very similar. He can play left back, more a right back. He's quite, good coming out from the back. He's got the pace for it. He's probably got better physical than Djed Spence. He's not as injury prone as well. I think this is a decent transfer. I think we can get him for about 15 to 20 million pounds, which of course would mean that Djed Spence money is spent immediately. But again, like this whole video is about the plot, we need to replace these players. So replacing him with someone like Neco Williams is a great one. The Welsh international, I think he'd come into the club. He'd fit in right well with Ben Davies, of course, and I think he'd settle into life. I think he'd be very good for Spurs, and he'd come in for the other games, maybe in the cups where we have to rest players due to our intensity on the Premier League. Of course, we're fighting, of course, possibly for UEFA Champions League qualification next season, but more European qualification. So games are going to be coming thick and fast when it starts getting into that proper 10, 15 games of the season. When we hit the end of year, it transition to the new year. Neco Williams is the perfect choice to replace Djed Spence. That's what I think. And maybe let's move on to who I like to call a snake, a Judas, Cristian Romero. So then, the second man, Cristian Romero. Of course, the leaks of him being very open to joining Arsenal this summer, our fierce North London rivals and the Premier League champions, is an absolute disgrace. He's tarnished his legacy at Tottenham and the relationship with the fans, of course, being named club captain a year ago today, and is now set to leave the club to Atletico Madrid after forced his way out of the club. Of course, a lot of rumours that the final day of the season, when, of course, we were going into that double-header relegation battle where we still could have got relegated, fighting West Ham and facing Everton on the day to try and fight for our survival for the history of our club. And our club captain Cristian Romero, who was injured at the time, supposedly didn't want to be there. He wanted to go to Argentina to watch his boyhood club and did not want to be at his club's biggest game in many, many years. Being the club captain is an absolute disgrace. Last season was an absolute disgrace. Did not care about what was going on. He was lazy, turned up to training late. He didn't have a real good leadership. He wasn't a great role model to the players, showing that you don't need to care. This club ain't good enough. I want to go, man. Like, why am I here? I'm too good for this. And thank God he's finally gone. And if these leaks didn't come out about him very open joining Arsenal, and not pushing his way out of the club, and if he stayed and this never happened, then I wouldn't be against it. But now this is all happening and we finally got rid of him. It feels like a breath of fresh air. Jesus Christ. Breath of fresh air that he's finally gone. And it's what we needed. It's what we needed. And I think it was time to move on, of course. There's been leaks over the last couple of years that he's been wanting to leave the club a couple of times. And, of course, after, again, our 17th place finish, which for the second year in a row, even if he was the player of the season in the Europa League back in 2025, leading us to that European success, he still wants to leave the club. And I think we want to get rid of him as well. We're not big fans of him anymore. We understand what he's done last season, how he didn't want to be at the club, and we realise what he wants in his career, and we've accepted that. Roberto de Zerbi did say he tried to convince Romero to stay, but basically wasn't having any of it. And Romero has left Tottenham Hotspur to Atletico Madrid, the perfect Diego Simeone player. So who's going to replace him? Well, he's a player who's already at Tottenham. Jean-Paul Van Hecke is the replacement for Cristian Romero. Of course, the former Brighton centre-back who was signed by Tottenham Hotspur for £52 million last month, of course, already playing pre-season friendlies for Tottenham. He has replaced Cristian Romero. That, playing out from the back centre-back who can be on the ball and hold possession, has a great relationship with his partner, looked to be one of our vice-captains, who just signed a new contract, by the way, Mickey van der Ven. Jean-Paul Van Hecke is perfect. Roberto de Zerbi said he's amazing, and Jean-Paul Van Hecke said he's like a father to me, the way he is. He's like a father figure, and these two get along so well. Of course, we saw that at Brighton, when, of course, Roberto de Zerbi led Brighton to UEFA Europa League football and European football for the first time in the club's history, only being promoted from the Premier League 5 or 6 years earlier, in time, 5 or 6 years, you know what I mean. But yeah, Jean-Paul Van Hecke is the replacement to Cristian Romero. Van Hecke, Van der Ven at the back. And I think Van Hecke is actually similar to Romero, but just not as harsh. He can play out from the back like Romero. He can hold the possession. He can find options, He's good at drifting up the pitch, He's not the quickest, I understand that, but he can make a good recovery time, and he's got physical. He can get himself stuck into a challenge and not just take him out and get a red card. He's very, very good on the ball, like I've said, but he's just a decent all-round centre-back, He was really, really good at the World Cup for the Dutch, for Netherlands. Of course, unlucky, they did get knocked out in the round of 16, or was it round of 32? I think it was round of 32. They got knocked out by Morocco on penalties, which was really, really unlucky. But it was a good thing for us, really. He got back to Hotspur way earlier than it could have been, So what do we lose in this situation? He came back, he's learnt the squad, and he already saying he's very, very happy at the club, and he's ready for the new season to start. this is a good replacement for Cristian Romero, and I think it's a good sign. £52 million might be a little bit of an overpay in this current state of time, but the way the market's been this summer, I think it's the perfect value. But what do you lot think? Have I made the right options? I think so. So thank you for watching this video. It has been awesome to record. Always remember to smash that subscribe button to the flipping channel, and I'll see you lot soon. Goodbye, guys.